Yeah.
I'm doing that.
I'm doing it on Tuesday. It's onto YouTube and we'll quickly. No. Just bear with us. Quickly, initial password. Zoom.
We ready?
Can we now live? Please. Live and we're
Right
big
now.
now. Just hold on, please, for a minute. There's more people that's there. Yeah, no, I'm the host now. Okay, so that's true. So now we're going live on YouTube. Yeah, we're live on YouTube. Yeah, and we've got Peter Reed's, Ronald and Christy to come on. So Christy, yeah. Peter, and Peter, and Son. I've got a big band name, the way you show me the person's name. No? Massey. V-A-N-M-I-H-N-G. Jim, we're right to go.
We're ready to go yet, Steve?
Yeah, go ahead.
Right. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this meeting of the Hunters Hill Planning Panel on the 15th of December. My name is Leslie Finn and I'm chair of today's panel. With me on today's panel are Mr. Chris Young, planner, Sheridan Burke, planner and heritage consultant, and Meredith Shield, who is a representative from the community. I would like now to confirm the minutes of the meeting of the 26th of October 2021.
I'll move those, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Seconded.
It's only you,
Sheridan?
it's only you and I there.
Only you and I. Okay. Of course, I remember. I should advise members of the public that none of the panel members this afternoon have a conflict of interest in relation to any of the matters before this afternoon's panel, and they have signed documents to that effect which are available to be viewed on the council's website. Now, perhaps if we go to the first matter this morning, which is an application for a boarding house, 17 Massey Street, Gladesville. And I noticed that Christy Hodgkinson, who is an objector to that application, has registered to speak, and I'd like to ask Christy to advise us of her concerns in relation to the
Thank you, Madam Chair. I take this opportunity to address the panel on behalf of the adjoining owners at 2 to 4 Flagstaff Street, which is the adjoining property to the south of the site. We have reviewed the development application plans on our client's behalf, as well as their full suite of documents and the amended plans that were lodged with the council. We fully support the assessment report that has been prepared by the council's consultant. Whilst our client has no in principle objection to redevelopment of the property, the grounds with which we have the greatest difficulty are that of overshadowing. The assessment report makes very clear what the issues are, so I won't go through those ad nauseum because I'm sure that the panel has read those accordingly. But I think most importantly, given the nature of the development as it's proposed and the mitigation measures that are required in relation to aspects such as noise, all result in a very detrimental impact to our client's property. The setback distance, given the extent of overshadowing, is not warranted at 6 metres and should be increased to ensure that there is adequate solar protection to our client's property. It is obviously of a much smaller scale than that which is proposed on the subject site, and we believe that, you know, even if the panel were of a mind to have a different view to what the assessment report reflects, that southern setback needs to be significantly increased, albeit that it has an impact on density for the development, but that it should be increased as there's no reasonable environmental planning grounds to warrant deviation from that control with regard to solar access.
Thank you, Christy. Now, perhaps Mr. Reid, the architect, Peter Reid, could...
Before you go on, Madam Chair, can I ask Christy a question?
Questions.
Yep. Christy, can you tell me what number 2 is used for at the moment?
It's actually vacant at the moment. It has been a premises that's used for medical purposes, but otherwise, since it's ceased that use, it has actually been used for residential premises on and off over time, and it is a rented property owned by our client.
Okay, thank you.
Pleasure.
Anybody else have any questions? No. Meredith? No. Then perhaps if Mr. Peter Reid would like to speak now.
Thank you very much. So I guess I'd like to start to say that our client, and we're disappointed that we were given very short notice of the referral of this matter to the planning panel. We received the notice on Thursday, and this meant that our client's town planning consultant, Jared Teresi, is not available to address the panel. I'm also disappointed that we met with the council officers in July, and we discussed the project and the issues that they'd raised in detail. We revised our submission to address these concerns, and then there's been no discussion regarding these revisions or of any of the further concerns that have been raised in this report. Now, I'm not a town planner, but I've discussed the report with Jared, and he's advised that we should make the following points. Under the affordable rental housing set, the DA cannot be refused if we comply with FSR and height under the LEP. Our drawings demonstrate that we don't exceed the 11-metre height limit. We note the report's advice that the survey doesn't show an existing spot level below the proposed ridge, but if you interpolate between the contours, this shows compliance. And we'd be very happy, and we would have been happy for the surveyor to provide a spot level to demonstrate this, but we were never asked. In terms of FSR, we were allowed 1.4 to 1 under the SEP, and we're just under 1 to 1. This is a clear demonstration, we feel, that the density and scale are acceptable. We meet the parking as per the SEP, and therefore we can't see refusal on this basis. And the traffic report notes conformance with the parking code. We meet the landscaping requirements, and the officer's comments that we don't meet the 2-metre requirement is not correct. It applies only if we were relying on it to be included in the landscaping calculations. We don't rely on it, and we still comply with the required area. We comply with the setbacks. The building to Massey Street is, the facing Massey Street is 2 stories in height, well below the height control towards and opposite the conservation area. And we note that we're not in a conservation area. The building has hip roofs, and it's not really reasonable to debate that it's not appropriate given the pitch of 18 degrees. The courts have held that when you apply the SEP, either one breaches height or setbacks. We don't do either. We feel that this is a balanced approach. We note that we're not in a conservation area, and if it was a CDC situation, the built form in this area could have a flat roof. In fact, there are flat roofs opposite our site in the conservation area, and so we don't really understand the council's position on this matter. The DCP breach to the external wall height is only 700 millimetres, and in one and maybe 2 locations, and they're quite minor. And as per the SEP, as we said before, that we comply in height with the LEP, so we don't see a basis for refusal. Finally, in terms of solar access, we believe, and the issue is with 2 to 4 Flagstaff Road, we believe that the principal living area is to the rear, and it's not the side front window, which is the only window which is affected by the overshadowing, which is approximately, it limits the solar access to just over 2 hours on the winter solstice to that window. That room has another window to it facing out towards the street. And as I said, we don't believe that that's a principal living area. In fact, the council hasn't been able to confirm otherwise, and even though we asked the question. So I guess in summary, what we're saying is that the project's approvable, and we don't see any reason why it shouldn't be approved. However, we note that there are a number of concerns raised in this report, and what we would like to do is to have a deferral so that we can address those concerns.
Thank you very much, Peter. Any of the members of the panel have any questions?
Yes, Madam Chair. Peter, I know Mr. Treasy very well, and I think you may have misinterpreted what he said in regards to saying that the matter cannot be refused if you meet the height and the FSR requirements. That's not correct. It means that they cannot be used as reasons for refusal.
Sure.
It can be refused on other grounds.
Mm-hmm.
The two of the areas of concern for me at the present time are looking at the acoustic report, which requires a 2 metre high wall next to number 2 Flagstaff, but I don't think the solar access has been determined on that 2 metre high wall. Would that be correct?
May well not be. I'd have to have a look at that. I think that there's a 1.8 metre high fence there already.
Yeah, but this requires a 2 metre high wall. So
another 8 inches.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to have a greater impact on that side.
Sure.
And the other concerns is looking at the report that comes from Jared's office in regards to the communal open space. There were two suggestions there about overcoming the acoustic problems there. One was to have a maximum of 5 residents in the open space in the evening time, or to actually deny the use of the communal open space in the daylight period in the daylight period, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Well, that seems a little bit odd to me, but
no, I think it's a typo there. I would say
I think so.
The daylight period. Yeah,
I think that's correct too.
Yeah.
Now that to me seems to me virtually a very limited amenity for anybody who's in those particular in that particular section. Do you think that's reasonable to have that sort of restriction?
Well, we have a number of communal rooms. So we have a communal room on the upper floor. We have a communal room on the ground floor facing out towards Massey Street, as well as this communal area facing out towards the side. So I think that we've actually provided more communal rooms than what we're required to provide. So I think we've given them pretty good, we're trying our hardest to give them pretty good resource in terms of communal areas.
So, but basically, that's coming down to the fact that you've got, the summer's coming up, 26 room, but only 5 will be allowed out on a summer evening for outdoor communal open space. Off
that particular room, there's also
that's the communal open space. So I'm assuming that's the outdoor area, the only outdoor area. Yeah.
But there is also space in front of the building where the front communal room opens to.
Yeah.
We haven't listed that as communal open space because we've seen that as being a setback area. But clearly people use their front yards.
Yeah. Okay. Now the other question is, how did you propose to cover the overlooking issues in regards to the first floor and the second floor in particular, for the adjoining properties?
We're quite happy to put louvers on the windows to limit the overlooking or looking into people's space, so that you still get light and some view into the rooms that would be affected by overlooking. But we'd have louvers to direct so that you don't get direct overlooking into other people's spaces. Yeah,
but you haven't provided that yet.
We didn't see that as being a major issue. But again, that's like, I guess part of what we're saying is that if these are concerns, we are very happy to address these concerns, but we hadn't been advised of that yet.
Okay, thanks, Peter.
Sheridan, do you have any questions? Meredith, thank you very much. The next person registered to speak is the applicant, Song Duan.
Hello everyone. Sorry, I'm trying to apply for Peter, but for some unknown reason, it's on my name. Yeah, I have nothing to say. Thank you.
Nothing to say. Thank you very much. Well, the decision of the panel will be available on the council's website in due course, and I thank you all very much for your attendance.
Thanks very much. If the decision's not made now, you'll be making in due course. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
Thanks very much for your time.
We're now moving on to the next item.
Okay, lovely. Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Thank you very much for your attendance.
Okay, cheers. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Chair, can we hold off YouTube and recording for a 15-minute break? Because this item's at 3 o'clock. Just wait for this there. Andrew's going to unrecord us, and recording in progress. And we're live on YouTube as well. Yes. Okay, over to you, Chair.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Hunters Hill Local Planning Panel, and we are now moving on to the second item on today's list. It is an application for an relocation of boundaries or boundary adjustment at 880 Street, Hunters Hill. The first person that is on my list to speak is Mr. John Atkin from 29 Madeline Street.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. If it were convenient, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. We thought it might be best if Fraser and Alice spoke first and then Judy. And we've taken a bit of time to organise our submissions, so we try and minimise the overlap as best we can. We thought if Fraser and Alice spoke first, and then my wife, Dr. Hadrick, and then Mr. Allen, who's our neighbour who speaks on heritage, and then my comments will be more by way of response to the submissions by council.
Okay,
if that's not present.
I've got John, I've got Fraser McDonald 1, Alice 2, Robert Allen 3. Who did you say should be 4?
Judy Hadrick.
4. Dan Brindle 5. Hello, Dan. And then you.
Good afternoon.
Well, we thought Dan could speak or just take questions, and then I could come in at the end. Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, fine. So you're number 6 then, Mr. Atkin.
Fantastic. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Very well. We'll proceed in that manner. Fraser McDonald.
Hi, Madam Chair. Nice to meet you.
Thank you. Go ahead.
So, hello, Fraser McDonald, co-owner of 880 Street and co-applicant on this DA. I'd like to thank you for taking the time to consider our application. In reference to Council's note on the applicants not having provided a response to the assessment dated 26th of October, I would like to highlight that the applicants have made all efforts to address Council requirements for this application, including undergoing 2 pre-consultation meetings with Council, preparation of all supplementary reports and plans that were requested, and responding to all Council requests during the assessment period. We believe that the application in its current form addresses all matters relevant to this application as raised by Council. This afternoon, I would like to speak to the intent of this application. Our application seeks to effect a boundary adjustment between number 880 Street and number 29 Madeline Street, whereby an otherwise impractical and unimproved laneway will be incorporated into 29 Madeline Street. This will provide for practical and economic use of this land whilst vastly improving the heritage character and streetscape of Madeline Street with no practical detriment to our use of 880 Street. I would like to make clear that no physical development is proposed as part of this application. The boundary adjustment will simply involve the transfer of land in the order of 160 square metres between these 2 lots, resulting in 2 regularised lots more in keeping with the historical lot pattern or configuration, noting that this laneway was previously part of 29 Madeline Street. I believe this application very much addresses the strategic outcome of this assessment, which is, as stated by Council, to maintain the character and amenity of Hunters Hill. The sufficiency of landscape area has been raised in Council's assessment, and we believe it prudent to address this point. Given the importance of landscaping to the character of the suburb, we would like to highlight that both proposed lots 1 and 2 would be compliant with the relevant provisions of the LEP and DCP post the boundary adjustment being effected, as would be the case for lot 2, with 62% soft and hard landscape coverage with a reduced lot size post subdivision being implemented. Confirmation of the landscape ratio has not been requested from council in regard to lot 1 specifically. However, note that the 160 square metre laneway possesses a circa 80% landscape coverage in its current form. Thank you.
Thank you, Fraser. Do any members of the panel have any questions?
No, Madam Chair.
The next person on John's list is Alice McDonald.
Thank you. Hello, my name's Alice. I'm a co-owner of number 880 Street and a co-applicant on this DA. Just following on from Fraser's address, I'd like to speak to some of the comments made in Council's report regarding rear lane access and parking for number 880 Street. To our knowledge, the laneway has actually never been used as a driveway or for car parking. It is our understanding that the previous long-standing owners of number 880 used the existing dwelling that's on that laneway as a shed for boat building. An examination of the area makes it immediately clear why the laneway is not appropriate to be used as a driveway. It's extremely long and narrow, and the distance from the house on number 880 Street to the existing dwelling on that laneway is approximately 50 metres, rendering it completely impractical for the purposes of vehicle access to the property. As a family with a young child, we simply can't imagine how it would be practical to be using that laneway as a driveway. But even if that huge distance were overlooked, in order to safely use the laneway as a driveway or for car parking, significant further development would need to be undertaken in the order of some non-porous paving and probably putting in a turning circle if that was even physically possible, and a new garage. This would severely detract from the visual amenity for all neighbouring properties and for both number 880 and 29 Madeline Street. Furthermore, the level difference between Madeline Street and the laneway is approximately 2 metres, which would mean that if the laneway was used as a paved driveway, it could cause some serious drainage challenges to the area, potentially requiring some easements through neighbouring properties. All of these features are immediately apparent on a physical inspection of the site, and I'd really encourage the panel to undertake a physical inspection if you're in any doubt of the merit of this application. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much, Alice. Robert
Yes.
Allen.
May I go, Madam Chair?
Yes, please do.
Okay, thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Robert Allen, and for the last 29 years, I have lived on the north side of Madeline Street at number 22, immediately opposite the laneway, which is the subject of this development application. I don't have any pecuniary interest in either of the properties being discussed here today. I'm just a neighbour and a member of the public who enjoys the ambience of this beautiful heritage area every day. My Zoom background today is a photograph of the laneway surrounded by numbers 27 and 29 Madeline Street. For the benefit of panel members who may not have had time to do a site visit in preparation for this meeting, I'll get out of the way for a moment so you can have a better look at it.
I did have a look, Mr. Allen. I went up there and had a look.
Okay, everybody's
I
happy
did-
with
I
that?
did too, yeah.
Yep, okay. It is looking much better here than it has for most of the previous 29 years. During most of that time, it has been knee-high with weeds, or as it has been appropriately described, a blackhead on the nose of an otherwise beautiful heritage precinct. I can confirm Mrs. McDonald's belief that the laneway has never been used for parking. During my 29 years at number 22, I have not once seen a car parked on the laneway. This clearly indicates to me that there is no convenience attached to its use as a parking place. Therefore, it does not make any contribution towards reducing the demand for on-street parking in 80 Street or in Madeline Street. Council has quoted public interest as one reason for recommending rejection of this DA. I find this difficult to understand, and it sounds more like a Clayton's reason to me. I am a member of the public, and the rejection of this DA is not in my interest. I see this laneway many times each day, and I would certainly prefer to see it looking landscaped and manicured. This is an outcome which will result from the approval of this DA. Other members of the public who pass by regularly would notice the improvement, while the one-time heritage walkers would not know that anything had changed, although they would have an enhanced experience. Nobody would associate the improvement with the relocation of the boundary. To the public, the only visible change from the street would be an improvement. Therefore, I respectfully suggest that the approval of this DA is in the public interest. It would maintain the character and improve the amenity of Hunters Hill. That's all I'd like to contribute this afternoon, but I'm available for questions if anybody has any. Thank you, Madam Chair.
The panel have any questions?
No, not me.
Thank you very much. Judith Hadrick?
Yes, hello, thank you. Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for your time. My name's Judy Hadrick. I'm co-owner of 880 Street, owner of 29 Madeline Street, and co-applicant with Fraser and Alice. 880 Street currently has an access lane, as you've seen, which fronts Madeline Street. So consideration of the DA needs to take account of the impact of the proposed development on both 80 Street and Madeline Street. My comments are made in the context of the stated objectives of both the Hunters Hill LEP and the DCP. Point one of those objectives is to maintain and enhance the character and identity of established neighbourhoods in the Hunters Hill municipality. As the relevant property sits within the Heritage Conservation Area, my comments also refer to Chapter 2.4 of the DCP, Heritage Conservation, which includes objectives to conserve and enhance the cultural heritage and to protect the heritage significance of existing buildings and tree-covered streetscapes. 880 Street is one of a row of 4 semi-detached houses bookended by heritage items. 2 of the semis have off-street parking from 80 Street. The development application before you has no impact on the existing building at 880 Street, nor the 80 Street streetscape. This therefore meets the objective of maintaining the character and conserving the cultural heritage of 80 Street. Madeline Street is a popular walking route for many locals and also visiting walking groups. The original cottages on one side and the stone wall and houses on the other side of the street contribute significantly to the character and environmental identity of Hunters Hill. The relevant section of Madeline Street has 5 heritage items in a row, except for the imposition of the laneway between 27 and 29 Madeline Street. The laneway is a long, narrow passage bounded by fences on either side. Not only does it impose a point of discontinuity on the streetscape, which was not present historically, it also diminishes the visibility and presentation of the heritage items on either side. Restoring 29 Madeline Street to its original width on Madeline Street would unarguably enhance the qualities of the existing buildings and the streetscape by providing an uninterrupted and consistent presentation. In the letter of the 26th of October from the Council, a reason put forward for the proposed boundary adjustment not being supported was that the proposal would result in the need to amend Schedule 5 of the Hunters Hill LEP. I note that the only amendment to Schedule 5 that would be required would be an updating of formal particulars of title. I propose that this is a small effort and one which would actually restore and enhance the cultural heritage of Madeline Street. In summary, the DA meets critical and prominent objectives stated in the LEP and the DCP. The character and cultural heritage of 80 Street is maintained, and the character, cultural heritage and significance of existing buildings and streetscapes in Madeline Street would be enhanced. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Do any members of the the panel have any questions?
No.
Thank you. Dan Brindle.
Yes, Meredith has a question.
Oh, does she? Sorry, Meredith.
Sorry, it just took me a moment to unmute. Just a quick question, and it might be most easily answered if Robert, if you just say something so you come full screen again.
Robert speaking. Hello, hang on.
I'm just interested as to whether there's a, I have been to the site, but I just didn't notice at the time. Is there a layover and a gutter for a car to go into that laneway? Are you able to just move to the side there?
Oh, wait on, I'll just switch off the camera altogether.
I can tell you there is.
Yes, but there's also, you can also see in the bottom right-hand corner, there's the old PMG pit there as well. So it that would have to be dealt with. That's indicative of never having been used as a driveway.
I'm sorry, so is there actually concrete access for a car up over the gutter there?
If you mean, do you mean it's not a hard edge? It's a soft edge, the same as it is in front of the driveway on number 29, where you can see Judy's car's parked. You're right. It's a soft edge. But as I said, it does have a. You can see just to the right-hand side. You can see a little bit of grey. That's actually the cover of the Telstra pit or the NBN pit.
What I'm trying to get at, and I should have noticed this myself when I went and had a look, but will there be a betterment by reducing the access off the curb there, increased street parking on Madeline Street?
We were asked that
there's no parking on that side of the street.
No, but
there would be.
Okay. There's no parking on that side of the street.
In Madeline Street.
In Madeline Street,
where the car accesses are. Okay.
Yeah.
Right, thanks.
No, but that's right. There's no parking on that side of the street, but it is our intention in a subsequent application, or it'll be Judy's intention in a subsequent application to look to develop a garage appropriately set back from the heritage building.
On Madeline Street.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, on the expanded
Footprint.
site. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So to use the area that's currently a laneway as a driveway?
No.
No. The proposal, if we're successful in this application and we can incorporate the laneway into 29 Madeline Street, and we will then put forward an application for a development of Madeline Street, which would see the construction of a garage for off-street parking for 2 cars, which would be set behind the building line of the property at 29 Madeline Street. So in that sense,
and the other,
how would that garage be accessed?
We'd buy a driveway off Madeline Street.
The existing driveway or an addition?
No, well, it'll be a new driveway. It'll be almost where that fence. You can see the fence at the moment. Be to the right of the car. The driveway will go. Well, that fence will be removed.
Thank you.
I think if a new.
Can we not all talk over one another, please?
Sorry.
I think the other point to note is that if we were able to have the laneway, we could move the car parking away from the house.
John, did you wish to have more to say, or is that it?
No, I do have quite a bit to say. Do you want me to say what I want to say?
Yes, please.
Yeah, but happy to come back and clarify this issue if it's of concern. Yes, as I said, my name's John Atkin. I reside at 29 Madeline Street with Judy. Before I start, I'd like to thank Mr. Karepis and the council staff for ensuring the matters before you today. We appreciate it's been a difficult year for all of us, but particularly for Mr. Karepis and his staff. And I understand from him that he's shared a copy of my letter to him, which I sent on Monday evening, and its attachments. My submission's really more by way of response to the council's reasons for refusal. Council staff put forward 4 reasons on page 95 to support their recommendation. The first reason is that insufficient information has been provided to address clause 50 in schedule 1 of the regulation. In particular, no additional information or amended plans have been received in response to council's preliminary assessment dated the 26th of October 2021. You should have received a copy of the preliminary assessment as an attachment to my letter to Mr. Karepis. If you read that letter, you'll note that the preliminary assessment did not request any information or identify any insufficiency of information. The only insufficiency of information noted in the body of the council's submission is the absence of information on the landscape ratio for the proposed lot 1. That has never previously been requested by council, nor is it necessary when you observe that the land being transferred, that is the 160 square metres, has a landscape ratio of approximately 80%. The 3 remaining reasons on page 95 are that the proposal has the potential to create adverse environmental impacts, the site's unsuitable for development, the approval of the proposal is not considered to be in the public interest and the application is unsatisfactory. There are no particulars provided to support any of those assertions. Arguably, they should be all disregarded for the want of the particulars, because it's impossible to respond to them. Reading the papers as a whole, the essential argument advanced by council staff appears to be that the removal of the rear access and parking to the existing development at 880 Street is a detriment. Council staff acknowledge that the access handle has never been used for vehicular access and rear parking, but observe that insufficient maintenance does not constitute appropriate environmental planning justification for development that is inconsistent with the objectives of the LEP. This argument, which is really the central argument, assumes the only impediment to using the rear lane for parking and access is a lack of maintenance. However, there is no driveway or turning circle. It's an unimproved laneway. Development of a driveway or turning circle would create adverse environmental impacts. 880 Street would fail to comply with its landscape ratio because the 160 square metres would all be then covered by a hard surface driveway, and stormwater drainage from the driveway would require easements over land not owned by the applicants to the south of 880 Street, fronting Alexandra Street, because of the 2 metre drop. Accordingly, the supposed detriment is illusory, and that is readily seen on a physical inspection of the site. On the other hand, both the heritage impact statement and the submission from Mr. and Mrs. Allen, which Rob's spoken to today, point to the clear heritage benefit of this proposal. There's no indication on the papers before you that the council has placed any weight on either the heritage impact statement or the submission from the Allens, nor is there any indication that council staff have carried out a physical inspection of the site. The applicants clearly acknowledge that the lots created by this proposal do not meet the minimum lot size requirement under the LEP, but neither lot meets that requirement presently. The average lot size is not reduced. The proposal does not involve any building work, and accordingly, and this is critical, the sufficiency of space provided for trees and plantings around every building is not impacted. That really concludes our submissions, but as I said earlier, Dan's here to cover any questions. I'm happy to answer any questions, and Dan is here to answer any questions on the clause 4.6 request.
Do any members of the panel have any questions of Mr. Atkin?
Yes, Madam Chair, I do. Mr. Atkin, it's been described as a laneway.
Hello, can anybody still hear what's going on?
Can people not interrupt, please?
Is the what's the formal status of it? As I understand it, it's a torrent style. It's not a laneway as per the Local Government Act.
No, I'm sorry. It's a lane. It's not. It is part of Torrens title. It's part of Lot 8. It's part of 880 Street. Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's not a laneway.
So the word lane is just a descriptor. It's not.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Now, I noticed your driveway is adjacent to it. Do you have any problems in getting into and out of your driveway?
I can't hear it.
I'm sorry. I think my wife might have been having some connection problem. She seems to have dropped off. Sorry about that. Do we have any trouble getting in and outside our drive? Of our drive?
Yeah.
No, we don't.
Is it wide enough?
Yes, although I would point out, as Judy observed earlier, it results in a car being parked very close to an otherwise well-presented heritage building.
Yeah.
But can I also just point out, from where you see that car at the moment on over Rob's right shoulder, to the back to see where the garage is, where Fred Stamp used to build his canoes, the blue garage you can see in the access way. The lot runs for probably another 20 metres behind that garage.
Yeah, so where are they?
And the drop in height is about 2 metres.
Okay, so how does your property drain from your rear corner?
It doesn't really, because it's fairly level, and also at the back of our property we have a pool which sort of keeps it, the pool starts on the level, but sort of absorbs, and then there's probably about a half a metre drop on the other side. There's a gradual drop down.
Okay. Thanks, John. Thank you very much for that.
Any other questions from any members of the panel?
No, thank you very much.
Thank you. Now, Dan Brindle.
Thank you, Leslie. I don't really have any further comments to say other than in looking at the grounds for refusal, I think there is sufficient information available to the panel to determine this application and determine it by granting approval. I think all of the information is readily available. The parking currently available at 880 is inadequate and not used. It will not change the need for parking at number 8 in any way at all because it's not currently used. So any suggestion that there will be a change in the need for car parking for number 8 is not actually the case. And finally, I suppose in the last point is any change to dwellings, either number 8 or the number 29 will require a subsequent development application, and all matters or hypothetical matters that might have appeared in the officer's reports don't need to be considered now because they will be properly considered in relation to those subsequent development applications.
Thank
and that's
you.
all I
Do
have
any
to say.
members of the panel have any questions?
No, Madam Chair.
No. Nobody? Well, thank you very much, everybody. The panel will now retire, as it were, to consider the decision, and it will be made available on the council's website very soon. So thank you all for your attendance. It's been
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your
Appreciate
time. Thank you.
Thank
Okay. Bye.
Bye. The outcomes, and then we hang on to finalise the minutes. Bear with us. Live.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Hutters Hill Planning Panel meeting. The panel has now made its decision, and I can advise that the application for a boarding house at 17 Massey Street, Gladesville, has been determined by a refusal of the application, and that the application for the re-subdivision of 880 Street, Hunters Hill, has also been determined by a refusal of the application. Thank you very much, everybody.
Just hold.